let me start with movie theaters. I'm pretty concerned about movie theaters. And I know this is something that anyone could have said for the last 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, arguably 70 years going back to like the peak in tickets bought per capita. But something's happening to the domestic movie theater market that I think is really, really interesting and worth just pausing to look at a couple numbers. In 2002, Spider-Man sold 69 million tickets, and 44 other movies sold 10 million tickets. That's like the middle class of film. 20 years later, last year, Top Gun sold 78 million tickets, more than the biggest film of 2002. But in the middle class of movies selling 10 million tickets, it wasn't 44, it wasn't 34, it was 19. The middle class of films in America is dying out in movie theaters, even though the smash hits are as big as ever. One more cut of that data. In 2000, 2001, and 2002, the top 10 movies accounted for about 22% of the total box office. Last year, the top 10 movies were 50% of the total box office.
Oof.
This is a market where there is no expectation of a growing middle class. All of the money is going to the top 10 movies. So what are these top 10 movies that are coming out in 2023? This Marvel phase is bad. The audience reviews are not nearly as positive as the first phase. There's no Avatar. There's no Top Gun sequel. Some of the biggest movies that I'm most excited about, like Oppenheimer or Dune 2, these are not films that are going to make $500 million or $1 billion. They're going to make, maybe, 300 million. You put it all together, that movie theaters are overwhelmingly more dependent on the big hits, plus the fact that I think this year's hits are going to be a little bit smaller. That spells a bad time for movie theaters. And as a result, my falsifiable prediction is that movie theaters are going to become a luxury business. The only way to save these theaters is for prices to go up and their footprint to go down. Theaters are going to become a little bit more like Broadway. The prices of the tickets are going to go up in order to capture more revenue from the many, but not enough, people who really do still love going to the movies 5, 10, 15 times a year.
Creed 3 will be an interesting one for this. Now, granted, a sequel, but that's a movie that, 10 years ago when the Creed came out, it was like, oh man, seeing that. Now it's like, I want to see it. Do I just wait till it's on Amazon in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever streamer is carrying it? I did that I didn't see Plane or Megan in the theater. And I really wanted to see both of those movies. Obviously, I'm the target audience for Plane. I mean, literally, they must have been in the writer's room like, hey, we got to make one for Simmons here. I really like Plane. I didn't see it in the theater. I just waited. Went on Amazon. It was $24.99 to buy it and $19.99 to rent it. I bought it. Guess what? I've watched it twice. But I didn't need to go to the theater for that. So I think they're undercutting the middle class from this pandemic thing that happened where they were just getting the movies faster and faster on streaming. But in the same way, it's reduced my interest to go to the theater. My prediction off your prediction. So Santa Monica right now, they're showing Boogie Nights on this theater that's on Montana Avenue. Sold out every night. They did like 2-week run, sold out, no tickets, like sold out right away. It's kind of a thing out in LA. And I'm wondering, like, maybe movie theaters start to get a little more creative. Maybe there's some retro stuff. Maybe they tap into the nostalgia craze. And instead of having a 20 screen movie theater, maybe we're heading toward like there's 3 or 4 and they have the 2 or 3 biggest movies and then your nostalgia movie. And we move toward like they have that out. Have you been to the Alamo Draft House in Austin?
Yeah. Well, not.
And
Yeah,
they have one in LA. It's great. They have food. They bring it. It's a cool screen. The seats are comfortable. And that goes back to your luxury prediction. Maybe the days of the 20 theater complex is coming to an end. But I'm still in on movie theaters to some degree.
I'll say this for movie theaters as an industry. It is one of the most resilient industries of the last 100 years. I mean, if you look at a graph of movie tickets bought per person in the US, it basically peaked in the 1940s. Like from a tickets bought per person standpoint, the movie theater industry has been in a recession for 80 years. But it doesn't feel like that. Movie theaters are still have felt thriving up until the 90s, 2000s, 2010. So I am not betting against movie theaters. I'm observing that the middle class of film seems to be eroding for precisely the reasons that you mentioned. That people say, well, I kind of want to watch, Tar. I kind of want to watch Creed 3. But you know what? I can watch that in 3 weeks. I can rent it from Amazon Prime in 3 weeks. So I'll just wait the 3 weeks. That's really hurting that middle class of film. And theaters are going to have to find some way to adapt. I think it's really interesting that the Boogie Nights solution, again, makes movie theaters a little bit more like Broadway. Broadway
Think
is
outside
not,
the box, movie theaters. Don't just be like, oh, next Marvel movie's out.
Yeah, but Broadway is not about, we have a new playwright, a new show. No, Broadway is about, we're doing Death of a Salesman for the 19th time. We're bringing back Phantom for the 19th time. We're allowing people to see familiar fare in a new way. And it's possible that movie theaters find that even as familiarity is conquering Hollywood in so many ways with the rise of sequels, adaptations, and reboots, maybe just bringing back, Godfather Part 2 and just a beautiful big theater
I'd
where
go
people
tonight.
can get martinis.
Tell me where. I'm in.
Yeah. Maybe that's the future.
Well, I also think the TVs just continue to get nicer and nicer. And when you're talking about middle class, even like middle class and slightly upper middle class, then upper class can all get these movies on these really nice TVs and have basically the same experience where they don't. One thing you didn't mention, one strike against movie theaters that I just don't think they've solved is the behavior in the movie theaters, which people have become less and less tolerant of because we're not around people enough anymore, especially post-pandemic, where it's like you're in the same row with somebody and they're on their phone and the light's shining from the phone, and it's 80 times more frustrating than it was 4 years ago because you don't have that kind of that give and take with humanity anymore because you're so used to have everything your way. So it's like, fuck it. I'll stay at home. I'll rent Megan on Amazon Prime. And you just do it that way.